Hi guys, Billy Goat Boy here. I'm going to do a video on how to drive the 2016 touring cars for you guys in the coming championship, just to show you how you can drive these cars better, because these are very odd cars compared to the 2019 touring cars that were in the previous season. So let's have a look and see how we can drive these cars as best as possible. And also take a look at what the easiest car out of the selection we've got is to drive. So let's first have a look then at the Chevrolet, the American entry, to see how this car performs around the track of Brands Hatch. Now this run is being done on full fuel, which is going to be done on all the cars. But this car, I would say, if you watch round the laps, I'd say it's the easiest to be able to put the power down as early as possible, because it is something all these cars suffer with, where you can barely put the power down if you're still turning the wheel. And while we're going around this lap, you'll notice that I never fully brake. I sometimes around some corners only half brake in this car, and this goes for every car as well. You have to almost just use the gears and lightly dab the brake and the turning to try and slow the car down. Because in these cars, you're more likely to scrub off speed putting the power down too early than you are to actually go slower out of the corner and just try and leave the car to straighten up and then put the power down. So that's something to watch out for when you're going for your optimal lap time. But on that note, this car definitely has, I think, one of the best abilities to put the power down as soon as possible compared to the other cars. Bearing in mind, all the testing was done on the default setup. So now let's move on to the Lada Vista to see what this car can do and how best to drive that relative to the other car. This car definitely felt like it turned in the best round the corners and had the easiest ability to be able to drive it pretty much pushing all the time, as I was fast straight out the box with this car from default setup. But once again, you can see how careful I'm having to be on the brakes, because anything when the car is loaded near the front, it can easily lock the tyres and you can end up in the barrier. As you can see in these couple of laps, you can see there's more times being made in this car, but I just couldn't quite extract it while doing the testing. But yeah, it's a very good stable car, I think, for this class. It's a small clip, I know, but at the end of my testing I used full brake. You can see how much the car locks up, so there's something to be wary of if you do end up braking for some reason behind someone in the race. This could easily catch you out. You could end up ruining your race and possibly someone else's. I'll post something, a comment or something, underneath this video to see if I find a way to stop this happening. Other than that, definitely you need to be careful on the brakes in these cars, as they have no ABS. And a 48.1 what I got here was not a bad lap considering this had full fuel. Once again on these laps you can watch my braking and acceleration. You can see on the little bars that I'm never using full throttle, basically coming out of the corner, or full brake entering the corner. These cars, you have to be able to balance the throttle and the brake to get the most out of these cars, while also you're steering, taking your foot off the brake to be able to get the car to turn in, otherwise you'll struggle. So you do have to modulate the brake quite a bit in these cars, which is why it's possibly a good idea if you have a load cell. If you don't have a load cell, then you're going to have to build up muscle memory to try and figure out where the best possible time to brake is and how much to brake. So now, let's move over to the Volvo and see how this car is. Now this car, I have to say, it didn't feel too much different from the Lada, but it was definitely more twitchy on the brakes on the default setup, so that's something you'd have to look into yourself. As you can see, the brakes, even with the same amount of pressure I was putting on before, you can hear them locking in the video, and it possibly had a touch more understeer than the Lada as well. But still definitely not a bad car, and up there with the first two we've looked at, even if the Lada does slightly take the lead at the moment in being the best car. I'll be quiet just for a second so you can watch this lap and see the inputs.
Your last lap time was at 48.46. You're currently 0.11 off your best. Sector 1 is quick, Sector 2 time is quick, Sector 3 is a tenth off your best. Sector 1 time's okay. Right tyres are cold.
Hopefully after that clip you can see what I mean about the inputs and what have you. So we'll move on now to the Honda. I think out of every car, the Honda has to be the car that has the worst power on understeer. You can literally put the power on and you can feel the car just washing out constantly coming out the corner. So this is something that would need to be tweaked out of the car, say from diff settings for sure, to be able to get the best from this vehicle. Probably would say overall that this is probably the weakest car out of all of them in the sense of drivability, but it is only a small bit behind the other cars. So in my opinion, I think if we were to rate the overall top four, I think they're nearly equal, but it would be the Lada, then it would be the Chevrolet, then the Volvo, then the Honda. So hopefully this has given you some information on what car to drive, and remember, be gentle on those inputs. It really will make a difference in this car, not just shoving your foot flat to the floor or smashing the brake into a corner, otherwise you'll end up reducing your lap time and in the gravel. I'll leave you with the fastest lap time I did in the Honda in the time trials. That's the one I'm going to be using this season, so hopefully you can watch it and see if you can beat me in the time trial and race room. Alright guys, catch you in the race.